The wind was biting that afternoon, the kind of cold that reminds you autumn isn't always kind. Outside the small, frost-covered corner cafe, the world moved fast, bundled in scarves and hurried steps. But inside, the air smelled of cinnamon and roasted beans. For most people, that warmth was a comfort. For one young woman, it was only temporary. A man named Daniel sat in a nearby booth with his 7-year-old son, Lucas. Daniel was a successful architect. His buildings stood tall across the city. But inside, he felt quietly broken. It had been a year since he lost his wife, Claire. The hollow ache hadn't faded. He had just learned to carry it. He came to this cafe not for the coffee, but because the silence of his own home had become too loud. As Lucas colored quietly, Daniel's eyes drifted to a small table across the room. A mother and her young boy sat there. The woman, her name was Grace, looked exhausted beyond words. Her coat was frayed, too thin for a Michigan winter. But what caught Daniel's professional eye, the eye of a man who noticed details, was the boy's hands. He was wearing mismatched mittens. One was a thick, woolly gray. The other was a thin, faded brown. If you believe that kindness has the power to rewrite a story, that a single act of compassion can heal a soul, please like this video and subscribe to Pure Kindness. Today's story proves that the smallest details often hide the greatest hearts. Daniel watched a little longer. Grace pushed her own plate of toast toward her son, Toby. She whispered, "I'm not hungry, sweetheart. You eat." But Daniel saw her hand tremble as she reached for a lukewarm cup of water. He knew that look, a look of hunger and sacrifice. He had worn a different version of it after Claire passed, feeling empty in a different way. Grace's eyes darted nervously toward the exit every time the door opened. She was calculating her next move in a world that seemed to have forgotten her. Meanwhile, Lucas looked across the room at Lucas's plate of pancakes. He didn't ask, he didn't whine, he just watched with a quiet wonder, the kind no child should ever have to wear. Daniel's chest tightened. He remembered the nights his wife Claire would sit beside him and say, "Wealth means nothing if it never touches another's soul." He had tucked that memory away, but now it surfaced like a wave. He couldn't just walk away. Instinctively, he stood up. Lucas looked up, confused. "Dad?" "Stay here for a minute, buddy," Daniel said softly. He crossed the cafe, his footsteps quiet on the tile floor. Grace noticed him approaching, and her whole body tensed. She was ready for judgment, for pity, or worse, for someone to tell her to leave. "Excuse me," Daniel said gently. He crouched down to Toby's eye level, then looked at Grace. "I couldn't help but notice your son's mittens." Grace's face went pale, but before she could speak, Daniel smiled. "They look like the best kind of magic." Grace froze. She had expected criticism, maybe a comment about being a bad mother, but instead she saw weary kindness in Daniel's eyes. Her guard lowered, just an inch. Daniel waved over the waitress. "2 more plates of pancakes, extra syrup, put it on my tab." Grace started to protest. "Oh no, we can't." But Daniel raised a hand. "Please, let him have this." Toby's eyes went wide. When the pancakes came, he ate with a joy that made the entire cafe feel sacred. For a few minutes, no one was cold, no one was hungry, no one was invisible. And then Grace began to talk. She told Daniel that she had been a teacher's assistant until the school shut down. No family to turn to. For 3 weeks, she and Toby had been living in her car. Last night, the car finally refused to start. She was homeless, sitting in this cafe just to keep her son from freezing. Daniel listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer empty answers. He saw in her the same resilience that had kept him going through his own grief, the refusal to give up even when giving up seemed easier. Daniel didn't offer pity. He offered humanity. He told Grace that his architectural firm was looking for someone with her organizational skills, someone with a heart for education. He could train her. It wasn't charity. It was a chance, one chance to rebuild her life. Grace's eyes welled with tears. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." Daniel smiled faintly, looking over at the booth where Lucas and Toby had somehow started playing together, two boys sharing crayons like they had known each other forever. "Because someone should have done it for me when I was lost too," he said. Over the next few weeks, Daniel helped Grace find a small, safe apartment. He made a few calls and secured her a stable job at a local nonprofit that worked with underprivileged kids. He watched as the shadows under her eyes began to fade. He heard her laugh one afternoon, a sound so pure and unexpected that it healed something broken inside him, too. But the mystery of the mismatched mittens still lingered in the back of his mind. Why would a mother who had so little let her son wear mismatched mittens? It didn't make sense. One evening, snow covered the streets in a soft white blanket. Daniel was helping Grace hang curtains in her new apartment. Toby and Lucas were building a pillow fort in the corner. Daniel finally asked the question that had been bothering him for weeks. "Grace, can I ask you something? That first day at the cafe, why was Toby wearing mismatched mittens? I've always wondered." Grace looked down at her hands. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then her voice came out as a soft whisper, and the shocking truth emerged. The night before they met, Grace and Toby had been at a crowded local shelter. She actually had two matching pairs of thick, warm mittens for Toby. But as they sat there, she noticed a little girl in the corner, shivering, her hands red from the cold because her family had nothing. Not far away, her younger brother was rubbing his bare fingers together. Without a word, Grace walked over. She had given Toby's matching gray mitten to the girl and his matching brown one to her brother. She left Toby with the two odd ones left over. She had been skipping meals, she had been sleeping in a freezing car, and yet she still chose to give away the very little she had so that another child wouldn't feel the hunger or the cold that she did. Daniel sat back, stunned. He realized then that he hadn't just helped a struggling mother, he had met an angel. Her dignity and strength weren't found in what she owned, they were found in her refusal to let the world make her cold. Sometimes the people who have the least are the ones who give the most. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness costs nothing but means everything, please like this video and share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to Pure Kindness and tell us in the comments, have you ever witnessed a silent hero, someone who gave their last to help a stranger? Let's keep humanity alive, one story at a time.